I never gave a hitter credit, ever. You have to have that mentality. You have to believe deep down you can get them out because they're trying to take it from you, man versus man.
Henderson has looked outstanding.
Struck him out. Jim Henderson strikes out the side of the
9 years in the minors. How did you withstand, 9 years?
I told myself I owed it to myself through all the rehab of the surgery to kind of see this through.
Here it comes. And he got him. Link strikes out, and Jim Henderson saves the game. A swing and a miss.
He throws very hard.
Struck him out. And he caught him during the ball game.
So welcome to another episode of Conversations, and I'm joined today by an ex-teammate of mine, Jim Henderson. And I don't think I've seen you physically, at least, for 25 or 26 years. So welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time. Blast from the past. I remember the days when we played together, so it's awesome.
Yeah, that was I want to say 1999 in Tucson, Arizona. You were an outfielder. So for the audience, you've made a career in pitching, but I knew you as an outfielder. So it's kind of trippy to me to see kind of that transition. But it happens to a lot of people where, they were tremendous athletes growing up, and then they had the option whether to pursue pitching or baseball, or pitching, or as a position player.
Yeah.
What was that transition for you in terms of when I knew you? Because I knew you as a hitter.
Yeah.
You didn't pitch.
I had that was probably my peak of hitting when you met me. That Canada Cup, I think I played at, and then I didn't know anything about the junior national team. I didn't know what was next. I just went to that tournament with Team Alberta. I think the closing ceremonies, they announced 25 guys to try out for Team Canada.
Right.
Next
that was
year,
Stonewall, right?
The next year, Trois-Rivières.
Oh, Trois-Rivières. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. They announced a bunch of guys to try out next year, and then they announced 6 or 8 guys to go right then to Tucson. And I'm 16 years old. I didn't know what was happening, and then they announced my name, and a couple of days later, I'm in Tucson. In the summer, I didn't picture that my summer kind of ended like that, but being like that. So. But that was it, yeah, and that was a great time. But I think when I was down there, I think I found out hitting's not for me.
Really?
Well, I didn't perform well with Team Canada as a hitter. I was always kind of pitching in the background with I guess you would call it a travel team, kind of with the dogs, and then just kind of I still did both in junior college and kind of just kind of threw hard, skinny kid who threw hard. I had the profile, and and then my third year of college when I went to Tennessee Wesleyan, just kind of took off for me, the pitching side of it. Yeah.
Right, and then you ended up getting drafted by the Montreal Expos, which they're unfortunately not around. But what was that transition like from, going from not even pitching to now you're a professional, 1 year in college ball at Tennessee, and then going into kind of a pro ball with, not a lot of experience.
Right, exactly, yeah. I didn't know really what to expect. It was kind of another thing, you go in somewhere, you're not sure what's going to happen. I get drafted. I was a little disappointed I didn't get drafted as an outfielder. I was still doing it. I still thought I was decent, but I go down to, Gulf Coast League rookie ball with the Expos, and it's culture shock because you're with the Latin community mostly down there. I was drafted late, so I'm just kind of around the other guys who were drafted late, and you're just kind of just kind of mutts, you know what I mean, down there. Just you're just not sure what, just kind of misfits, and they're just kind of hoping somebody comes through. I got there, and I remember pitching my first game in rookie ball, and the pitching coach goes, "Oh, that's a good sinker." And I walk in the dugout, I look at a teammate, I go, "How do you hold a sinker?" I just think that's wild. That's how I knew nothing. I just had a decent arm, and like I said, fit the profile, and I'm just all right, let's run with it and see where it takes us. 9
years in the minors for you. I'm wondering, because for me, I see a lot of guys, they're lifers in the minor leagues, they put in the time and work. After the 5th year, you're kind of wow, this is a lot. How did you withstand, 9 years in the minors in your career?
Yeah, it was going fairly smooth to begin with. I was starting pitcher for a little bit and caught some breaks to find myself in a minor league rotation. I got moved to the pen. Velo jumped up a little bit. the Cubs took me in a minor league Rule 5, and made the Double A, and I was kind of hitting every level every year. I repeated a couple times, but I made all the way to Triple A, and I was knocking on the doorstep, within 4 or 5 years, and I was feeling good about that. And then I got hit with the shoulder surgery, my first shoulder surgery, and I was close. I was possibly gonna go to the fall league. I was possibly gonna get a September call up with the Cubs, and then the shoulder hit, and then they fixed me up, and I walk in there after I throw my live VPs 10 months later after surgery, and they released me, and I was kind of shocked.
Right.
I was kind of shocked by it, and they released me, and I got released right at the end of spring training when kind of teams have settled their rosters and are not looking for anybody else. So I made some calls. Luckily got a trial with the Brewers, but they offered me a job. They said, we got a job for you, but you're not going to like it. I go, well, what is it? They're like, well, you got to go back to Low A.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I talked to some people, and they're like, well, just take a job. It's affiliated ball.
Right.
And see, I got a hotel because I'm like, I'll just be here for a couple of weeks, and I'll maybe move back to Double A, Triple A. I was there. I made the All-Star team.
Oh, nice. Nice.
In Low A, but that was
yeah.
that was a part where I was kind of grinding a bit.
That's a grind.
Shoulder.
How old were you at that
26, kind of having to start back at the levels again.
Right.
And that's when I was like, all right, what am I doing? I told myself I owed it to myself through all the rehab of the surgery to kind of see this through. So eventually, by the second half of that season, I got to Double A again.
Right.
So that was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, for that year.
Right.
And then I just kind of kept on plugging away, and I was like,
so were
let's
you
go.
Rule 5 with the Cubs at the time? You're still with the Expos?
Yeah, Expos.
Okay.
Nationals at that point.
Okay,
yeah.
so I guess it transitioned in 04 or 5
Yeah.
or something like that, where it went to the Nationals, and then Rule 5 with the Cubs, and then back to Low A.
Yeah.
After experiencing what you've experienced, and then going back to Low A and having to grind it out, there has to be decisions of like, is baseball for me, or am I like thinking about a different career at this point? Like, what's going through your head as a 26-year-old, or like floating in the Low A at the time?
Right. I was playing ball. Like I said, I owed it to myself. I put in I think it was a 10-month rehab with the shoulder, and I was like, let's just go. I think I was pretty disappointed when they called me. They called me after the All-Star game, and they said, "Hey, you're going to High A," and that's when I was probably the most disappointed. I was like, I was in AAA last year, man.
Right.
And they're like, no, that's not how we do it. We don't skip levels. And I was like, I feel like my situation's different. I'm 26.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I got down to Florida, and I got just warmer weather coming off the surgery, and I started throwing harder. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right, maybe I still got some left, so let's keep going.
And then how did the Brewers come into play, I guess, from the Cubs?
Yeah, that was with the Brewers.
That was with the Brewers.
Yeah, I got
okay.
released by the Cubs.
Released by the Cubs, and then the Brewers picked you up.
The Brewers picked me up,
right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I guess, a blessing in disguise if you think about it, because Brewers were actually, you're currently with the Brewers as an assistant pitching coach right now, and you've made the major leagues. Your major league debut was with the Brewers, so I guess that was the evolution of, eventually when you're, is it 29? You made the big leagues?
Yeah.
So 2012. Walk us through kind of like, I guess, all the 9 years of grind. You finally make it now.
Yeah.
What's going through your head?
Right. Yeah. Almost released that spring training of 12,
No way.
And they called. I was just kind of in camp, to kind of do me a favor. And honestly, they, I was I was a minor league free agent, and, the money started getting a little bit better for a minor league free agent. So that's kind of what kind of kept me going a little bit too. So, but they called me, late in the off season to say, well, we'll bring you to camp, and Gordash and Doug Melvin, the Canadian boys there,
right.
And I Brett Laurie may not like it, but they kind of said, hey, you looked after Brett for a couple of years when I played with him in the Brewers system. And, if you need a job, come on to spring training, we'll see what we got. So, so I go through spring training, but I didn't really get many innings. I could kind of see the writing on the wall. So at the end of camp, they told me, hey, go to Double A, play the first road trip. I'll try to find you another organization if I can't. Gordash was telling me this. If not, then we'll probably have to release you. And injury happened. I got to go to AAA, and then I just went on the run. I just had that golden year where I just everything connected. I worked my ass off, and there we go. And it took a while that season to I had to 9 years, 10 years of just like kind of mediocre performance, you have to really prove it throughout that season.
Right.
That, there's probably, I passed out plenty of times that year, but I just had to keep my head down and keep going because I was having that good year. So eventually it happened.
Then the next year, the following year, 2013 hits. You, I guess, fit into that role with the Brewers as a closer that year and had 28 saves, I think, that season. I guess it's seizing the opportunity. You don't know how long you're going to actually be up, but what was that like in terms of like the adjustments that you had to make to fit into that new role as kind of like that closer with the Brewers?
Yeah, it was awesome. John Axford was there.
Right.
So like we shared those duties a bit. K-Rod was there, great mentors. Trevor Hoffman, I didn't play with them, but his influence on those guys kind of transferred into what we did. So it was fun, and they taught me a lot of ways how to close. I learned a lot. I was 29 years old, 30 years old, but I learned a lot at that age. Mm-hmm. It's just a different game after 10 years in the minor leagues. It's just a weird transition to like take yourself out of like that college atmosphere to this pro ball where everybody's trying to climb over each other and you're just kind of worried about yourself, to now it's like it's about the boys, it's about the wins. And it was good learning from those guys. And ultimately you just wanted to get 3 outs when you're closing games. You just wanted to go and do your best job, really, and just do it for everybody. If
there's a kid grinding in the minors right now, what are you gonna say to him? Because like for me, like I said, it's kind of mind bending for me to like be able to withstand that many years and then finally make it, because it was easily you could have easily just said, you know what, this is it, I give up, and you stuck with it, and then you had a career year for you at least, and as well as the Brewers being having 28 saves with a 2.70 ERA or 2.6 ERA. That was a big point in, I guess, your life in terms of what it took to kind of get to that point just 3-4 years before you're released or by the Cubs. Like, what would you say to a guy kind of, he might be listening to this and it's just like, do I quit? Do I keep going?
Yeah. I mean, I come across guys now all the time who are kind of coming near the end, or they feel like it's the end. And, I just, I've had to let guys go myself for a little bit, or talk with the managers and talk with these players. And it's just like, if you're healthy and you love the game, just keep going. That's it. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. If you're feeling good, because, you get to a point where it beats you up a bit, but if your body's feeling good and you're healthy, just go. And, if you got nothing else going on, or you still envision yourself being a baseball player, just keep going.
And you obviously have to have passion to stick around.
Right.
If you lose that passion, it's very difficult to kind of take the day in, day out grind, right?
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. I think I got to the point where like I'm in the minor leagues and I'm, I got, like you said, I got to year 5, year 6, and I'm like, well, let's just, if they're just going to keep giving me jobs, like why stop? You put all this time in. So, it became this thing where like you're trying to get there. You got this thing dangling in front of you, and you just want to get to it. So that was the passion. That was like, that keeps you going, really. Okay,
right. It was always a goal, right?
It's funny. You got levels. It's just like a video game. We're trying to get to the end, right? Trying to win the gold. So I mean, it's a big motivation.
Let's talk about how you transitioned, I guess, from a player, MLB player now, to a coach. How did that all come about in terms of your career?
Yeah, I'd gone through another shoulder surgery, and the thing was like, I played the big leagues with the Mets, and that was after my second shoulder surgery, and I just couldn't recover. Like I could get my velocity up at times, and I was doing fine, but I just like I needed it. I couldn't be like a major league player anymore. A major league player reliever has to be able to throw every day. You have to go 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, 3 out of 4 days, and I just couldn't do that anymore. So that was telling me, okay, this is it, right? So, and that's the thing now. I sympathize with players and guys I coach that like, it's a tough job to be a reliever and a pitcher in Major League Baseball. It's stressful. The schedules are demanding and the game's demanding, but it's what it takes to be in the show. Like that's why you guys are highly compensated.
Right.
So take care of yourselves. But so it came to the point where like, okay, the body's telling me this is enough. And then just kind of worked. Stubby Clapp gave me the best advice. I was on a rehab assignment with the Mets, and he was coaching a minor league team in AA somewhere, and I think with the Blue Jays. And I stopped him. I said, hey man, what's your advice on getting to the next level of coaching. He goes, just do it right away. Don't get forgotten, right? Just like if you kind of have a name right now, if you want to get into it, just go for it. Right. So I kind of took his advice. And when the phone called, and Taylor Green, good friend of mine, he's working for the Brewers, and he's like, hey, I got something for you. I was like, all right, let's go for it. So get your foot in the door.
You've had experience as a player and as a pitcher, and now you're coaching at the major league level. You've also coached in the minors as well. What, I guess, is your philosophy in terms of what you teach kind of like the next generation of pitchers? Like, is it something like where it's like pound the zone, strikes, like, start off with strikes? Because I feel like modern baseball has so much focus on, I guess, velocity and spin rate that obviously those are just physical factors of the game, and that dictates the speed of the game. You're trying to optimize that, but there has to be more to that than just the physical aspect too, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it comes back to the basics. We do the simplest things in the big leagues when it comes to the basics. Throwing program, playing catch, the simple things. Like we just really harp on the foundational aspects of throwing a baseball. It starts there. If you get so many reps on the actual mound during the game, but if your work around it isn't polished up and clean, then you're just going to have these ebbs and flows, and that you don't want as a major league pitcher. You gotta be consistent. So it's the work around it. It's the simple stuff of playing catch. We have obviously a ton of tools at our level to kind of direct us, but it comes down to, you gotta like to work, and you gotta like to just like throw a baseball, and just like have a good throw. That's basically it.
Yeah. For me, when I see where the game's at today, I think that's part of the stuff. Like I said, I was speaking to you earlier about this, where the people with a lot of knowledge, I would say, guys like yourself and guys that, grew up in the 80s and 90s, they're not, I guess, a fan of the digital world and to be out there, but that's where all the knowledge is, because knowledge comes with experience, and, the wisdom comes through, the experiences that each individual player kind of goes through. So I feel like a lot of the game has shifted, and I'm not going to say in a bad way, because like I said, all the technology out there is really enhancing the game at the highest level, which is Major League Baseball. But in return, a lot of people are thinking that that's just the formula. But I see it as more of a whole, because I'm involved in baseball development with, like, even Canadian baseball development. And I see where we were, like, for instance, on the junior national team, when I started coaching back in 2012, we were 6th in the world. And now we're whatever we are, 22nd. And there's a lot of that go into it, not just baseball quality going down, but I feel like we get affected largely because of, I guess, what's out there now. And I want to kind of touch on, I guess, the baseball side, the baseball IQ side of things, in terms of philosophy, I guess. Is the focus just strictly on that physical side, or do you guys really harp on, I guess, the baseball IQ side of things? Yeah,
I love this stuff right now, like Greg Maddox's documentaries and all this stuff that's coming out of like, how he pitched and the game, and reading the swings and all this stuff. I mean, it's a real thing. And as you mentioned, like, hitters now, they try to launch the ball for years there, and now they're getting back to, like, their swing decisions are like, it's very, very impressive. And and their training of seeing high velocity, because we've raised our bar to velocity. Now they're raising theirs to hitting it and understanding what's a ball and a strike. So now it is getting back to like, okay, this guy can hit him 100. It doesn't matter if you're throwing 100 miles an hour, because there's a ton of them. You can find them on every team. It's how do I move the ball off the barrel? Where's my strikeout? Where's my called strikes? Like, it's now where the running game is taking off, and Major League Baseball is pushing that a bit, but the small ball in the running game is coming back. So it's like, I'm glad I got to see it all through, because I coached, all this new age stuff as well, but I also played in that area where it was that pure baseball. So it's great.
Would you say that it's going in the right direction in terms of baseball development? Because you see it at the highest level in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Brewers, and I feel like we all follow MLB, regardless. That's the ultimate goal. So it trickles down into our development too. So I feel like that all that side needs to be kind of, I guess, back into our baseball system, because for a moment, when I'm coaching, even I have kids that might not even know what a double cut is. And when competing in it for like a world championship, for instance, and you're playing against Japan, those are the basic stuffs that you need, to make sure And I know from a professional standpoint, that's what spring training's for. You're doing PFPs, you're doing all the stuff that is the basics that nobody sees. But I feel like that's lost especially in the youth, I guess, the youth world, because of travel ball, of rankings, and all these things. But I also feel like it stems from, I guess, Major League Baseball, because we're so, I guess, focused on developing the game at the fastest level, right? So,
right.
Yeah. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you're really seeing now, it's like everything's focused on the tools. Like, this guy's throwing hard, this movement's here, this guy's sprint speed, all the tech stuff that's kind of shedding light to all this stuff. But I think you can't lose perspective. It's a team sport, and things need to be done. It's correctly. Things you have to. The game has this flow to it, and if you're disrupting it by focusing on just a few things, it's just going to get clunky. And I think we saw it get a little clunky for a bit there. I think it's coming back a bit.
Right.
But yeah, it's hard because teams and colleges and these travel ball teams are pushing this stuff, and the pro game. I've talked to scouts, and they're in our front office and our research and development guys. They're drafting guys without seeing them play. They're drafting guys without getting to know them and if they're competitors or not. So the player development in pro ball is super important to teaching the game now. And even in the big league level, we're seeing these guys come through 20 years old, and we have to teach the game at our level now. So it's important for the youth here to learn the basics from a young age, so that you're gonna be well ahead of everybody if you keep on continuing your career through college and pro ball.
Right, and the game never really changed in like really 100 years. Obviously it evolved, but in terms of the bases, they're the same. The way you play defense, defend a bunt, the way you defend a first and third, the way you communicate, it really hasn't changed over the years. So that was my point. Is like, I believe that a good player has those fundamentals locked down. You look at any high-level players, and you'll see it. Like, for instance, Jackson Chourio. He's a guy that I'm a huge fan of. I was talking with Tyler Black the other day. He recorded a podcast with us too, and Tyler Black's another guy who knows the game really well. You mentioned Taylor Green. All these guys know the game really well, and that's part of the reason why they stayed around, right, in terms of sticking with the game. And I think that is at least my goal from a development standpoint, to really harp on that side of things, to say, hey, don't forget that baseball is still a strategy game. There are things that we still need to teach at the grassroots level. Yes, we're trying to increase our velocity. We're trying to do all these things, but at the same time, if we said we had to win, can we win? Can we defend the bunt?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Little stuff like that. And I think that's so important in this next generation, especially the ebbs and flows of baseball, is hoping that more and more people speak up about it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's no better way to learn the game than play it. And there was some people when COVID hit were like, oh, this is something, they trying to take the glass half full, like this is a great opportunity to keep training and this and that. But I'm like, no, man, we're missing out on game reps. Where these team defense and fundamentals come into play that you can learn from, and you can make mistakes and learn from them. And growing up in Calgary, and I got to be lucky enough to be on that first travel ball team. We played 100 games. We would go to BC and go to wherever warm weather we could. And we just were young and trying to play up levels, and that's how we learned. We learned how to play it. We had some good coaches that kind of like, you make a mistake and here's the reason why, and you bring awareness to it.
That was Okotoks?
The Okotoks, Calgary, yeah.
They're still around, so shout out to the Okotoks program. Let's talk about the 2025 Milwaukee Brewers. they seem to always be around, regardless in terms of a pennant race, regardless of the roster. You guys lose Corbin Burns and all of a sudden you're back up there again. As the pitching guy, I guess, what do you see and what excites you for 2025 season this year?
I think we went through a stretch with Corbin Burns, Freddie Woodruff. Woody's come back this year, but we went through the stretch of just like really good pitching, and our offense was a little. They hung with us, but it was like we joked about my first few years up there at the big leagues. It was like, you could flip a coin the sixth inning, and it's going to be a low scoring game. Right. It's going to be tied. We're going to be up or down one. Everything was like white knuckling the whole year. Those for like 2-3 years because our pitching kept us in it. Our offense last year just took off, and they've just played the game, and all the stuff that we're talking about right now. They stole bases, they bunted, they just played fundamentally sound baseball, and like all of a sudden, it went from I don't know what we averaged runs wise a game. I don't look at that stuff, but it felt like we had a lot more cushion. Right. So then our message coming into spring training this year with our pitching staff was okay. Our offense has cleaned their house. We got to clean our house. All the little things. Like we're still gonna do our thing. We're still gonna try to develop our pitches, our velocity, our movement, everything. Control the lineups. We're gonna do our thing. But when it comes to the fundamentals of controlling the other team's running game and controlling the team defense stuff, like we're gonna really harp on that. And we just went through a full spring training of. I think the message was pretty clear that we're gonna try to do things fundamentally sound. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to win ball games doing it that way. It's gonna be fun rather than just going out there and going with our power stuff. We've lost some of those talented pitchers like you're talking about, but so we got to do it a different way, and I'm excited for it.
No, I think what Milwaukee does really well is they balance their prospects out too, because it feels like you guys always have a strong minor league system, up and coming prospects. I'm a huge fan on just staying in the prospecting, I guess, game, because I like to see. I always say Churios, I'm always looking for the next Ronald Acuna Jr. Mm-hmm. Right, so I feel like Milwaukee always presents itself with a lot of up and coming guys. Is there any one in particular that in the minor league system that you're like, okay, this guy's going to be the real deal? Or
Jefferson Caro at catcher.
That's what Tyler said too.
Yeah. As long as he had shoulder surgery, so as long as that bounces back. He's William Contreras is unbelievable, but this kid's knocking on the door, once he fully recovers. So that's a big name. On the pitching side, I'm a sucker for relievers. I work with them the most. Right. So Craig Yoho, kind of like an older guy. He was a position player, kind of new to pitching, but outstanding changeup. Like Devin Williams kind of put changeup on the map as far as you never thought that a changeup, a single pitch like that could work so well, and this guy's right behind it. So excited for his opportunity coming up here too.
So what would you tell someone like him in terms of the mindset as a closer, because obviously you can't go in there I'm scared to throw or anything. You're there to shut down the door. What would you tell someone like that who fits that role, or I guess is newer to pitching, and you have that experience of kind of shutting it down?
Right. Yeah. I took my approach was I never gave a hitter credit ever. You have to have that mentality. You cannot be out there, scared of who, Soto's in the box or whoever.
Right.
You have to believe deep down you can get him out. It's not a cocky thing. It's just it's a confidence. I can get you out at any given day. With this pitch, once it leaves your hands, nothing to do, but I'm going to get this ball back and I'm going to get you out with this next pitch. You just have to have that mentality. Because they're trying to take it from you. These guys in the box are trying to take it from you with that weapon in their hand. So, it's man versus man.
And do you see that the mental game, or I guess the mental performance side of things is being preached a lot at, I guess, the professional level?
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely, we got psychologists all over the place now, and but they're using it right. You want to focus. You want to be able to be out there with a clear mind and focused on what you're doing. I think you play your best when you're kind of unconscious, slow heartbeat, and the game's coming to you in slow motion. if you can kind of block out the outside stuff and use these people to help you do that, you're in a good spot.
So before we kind of go into the last, I guess, segment, what is your goal, I guess, from baseball moving forward? I mean, you've kind of accomplished every step of the way, probably personal goals that you've hit, and now you're kind of living it right now with the big league club in Milwaukee. Is this something that you want to continue to pursue? Is it more, I want to, get into managing at one point, or is it just kind of like I'm just living it day by day and kind of enjoying the process?
Yeah, I definitely right there, the latter. I'm just enjoying it. I have tremendous respect for our manager and our pitching coach, and I this feels like a family to me with the Brewers. So I'm happy here. I'll do kind of whatever they ask. Last year, it was the first time I was on the bench. I was a bullpen coach for the first couple of years in the big leagues, and then I moved to the assistant coach, pitching coach role, and sat on the bench. And I just became like a huge fan of our players, watching it a little closer. Right. And I just like loved and respected our players, and just want to do everything to help them. So that's kind of just where I'm at. I mean, like I said, I don't even know what day it is right now. I just, just every day, in baseball world, it's kind of just, you rinse off and repeat, and you just take whatever challenges the day brings. So that's kind of how I go about the coaching too. Like, it's so long. The seasons are so long. There's such a grind to it that you can't look too far ahead. You just got to be right where your feet are.
Right. Yeah. And what would you say is one thing that you love about what you do?
Just watching just watching the guys get outs, and I don't really care how we do it, but just watching the guys perform, being able to be a piece of it, just a little piece of it, because they're the ones doing it. You feel it for them, but they're the ones doing it. If you can help in any way possible, it's a way to go. And
then last question I want to leave this off is, if you were talking to your younger self, everything you've gone through, or maybe it's someone that, is going through similar things that you went through. The way I see it is, you went through a lot of adversity. And everybody I talk to, in terms of whoever found success, especially at the major league level, that's one thing that they preach on is, it wasn't easy. It was a grind, but I never quit. I never gave up. I want to, I guess, talk about adversity and what you would say to kind of like your younger self, or anybody in that, I guess, context.
Yeah, I would probably say for me, like, get rid of distractions. Like, if you have this goal in mind, if this is what you truly want to do, or whatever it may be in life, like, put your head down and do it. It's, there's plenty of times through my 10 years in the minor leagues where I'm like, I got, halfway through the season with a 6 ERA, I'm like, okay, next year. Right. And you can't do that. You can't just hope that there's going to be a next year. Right. So like, and I'd probably just be like, okay, play video games, or, or stay up too late, or whatever it may be. But like, I look back now, I'm like, man, if I would have applied to myself the way I applied myself that year I got called up, maybe I would have happened earlier or whatever. But if you really want something, man, you gotta prioritize what you're doing in your life and go for it.
Right. No, awesome. No, I appreciate you coming here. Like I said, it's I haven't seen you in 20 plus years, like face to face. I've seen you on TV, obviously, but you're someone that I want to kind of catch up with, because you've obviously done something that bettered your life, and it wasn't an easy road, just based on even grinding in the minors 9-10 years. I've grinded 2 years and I couldn't even take that. So I totally respect your hustle, and even better that you've made it to where you want to go eventually. And for me, my message is that as well. It's, you only lose when you quit. But if you keep kind of going through it and grinding it, and have the utmost, I call it delusional belief in yourself, when everybody kind of doubts you, including the scouts, you still believe in yourself, and you still show up every day, and you still kind of make it happen. So that's kind of the reason why I want to sit down and talk to you, and I appreciate your time.
That's great, man. You said it right. You said it right there. Sometimes there's like this self-awareness that you got to find a sweet spot on, right? Like, you're a little bit delusional and you're just going to keep going. And sometimes you have those doubts, but you got to find that sweet spot that just carries you through. But
right.
Appreciate having me, man. It's great. I'm glad I follow your stuff, and glad that you're keeping it going for the baseball development, not only in Canada but everywhere else. But it's been awesome.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, awesome.